Hello.
Hello.
Woo! Alright, everyone. Welcome back to the AstoundCast for episode number 33. Wow. 33 episodes of this.
33 out of 52.
And hopefully a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to say before we start as well, very similarly to last week, this one will be a bit shorter as we're very low on stuff to talk about again. And that you aren't feeling fantastic, correct?
Uh, you know when you just wake up and just feel like your head's spinning and all that?
Oh, yeah, I'm well familiar with that.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened this time.
Oh, yeah, I feel that. But not to worry, there isn't too much to talk about today, so yeah. Just want to quickly ask before we start, how's your week been?
Week's been alright, actually. Kind of busy because I've had deadlines coming up, but
Yeah.
apart from that, got them all done. They're all being sent off, and funnily enough, this week coming up, I've got like a week free.
Oh, wow. Nice one.
How's your week been then, Cam?
One of my favorite quotes from this week that I've used is, "This week has been the longest year of my life."
Ah,
It's been a ridiculously long week. I do not know why, but it feels like college last Tuesday was like 3 weeks ago.
wow.
Yeah, it's been a long one. Hasn't been bad, but it's just been a really drawn out week for some weird reason.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure what was going on with that, but well, we're at the end of it now, and hopefully next week goes a little bit quicker.
Ah, yes, you only have 2 Mondays to deal with next week instead of three.
Yeah, like honestly, I've seen snails move faster than this week.
Uh, I mean, to be fair, you could probably, if it's the snail that's hunting everybody down, then I should hope it's not quicker.
Yeah, yeah, it was a slow week, but yeah, um, there have been a few significant things happening over this week, as I'm sure we're aware. Um, but there is a couple of other things that surprisingly, there's a couple of things that I haven't talked about, which I shall get onto now, unless there's anything else you want to add to your week that you've had.
No, not really, but it's at least it's over.
Yeah, agreed. But on Wednesday night, I think. Oh no, sorry, Thursday night. The No, or was it Friday? Okay, one night this last week. I don't remember which one. This is the only little bit of motorsport news as well I should probably mention. Um, um, the NASCAR Hall of Fame inducted its um new members for the 2021 season, and they inducted this year 3 drivers from years past. Unfortunately, two of them I can't remember the names of, as they are from many, many years ago.
Hmm.
However, there was one driver who has been well overdue a place in the Hall of Fame, and that is none other than Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Oh,
Yeah, it's taken them 11 years, no, sorry, 12 years to induct him into the Hall of Fame. Don't know how, because he's probably one of
well,
the
at
most
least he's
famous
in there
NASCAR drivers of the modern age. Hmm?
now. At least he's in there now, though.
Yeah, and what I found really cool was, well, in the actual building of the Hall of Fame, they have a little path, heading towards it with, signatures. Well, yeah, old NASCAR drivers' signatures, and they've done one for Dale Earnhardt Jr., and the slab of concrete they put it next to is the one with his dad's signature on it.
Aww.
Who of course passed away at the Daytona 500, good grief, 21 years ago. In 2001. So I found it really nice that they put Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s, technically autograph concrete slab next to his dad's.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
Yeah, like, really nice touch for them to do, because I'll be honest, I don't think they could have really put it anywhere else.
No, they couldn't put it anywhere else and nobody commenting on it.
Yeah, like, if they wanted to put it somewhere and get attention for it, that's where it had to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just curious as to who they could add next year, because there isn't many drivers left who have, well, there's obviously quite a few drivers. I definitely think that Chase Elliott's probably due a place in the Hall of Fame at some point, because he's won NASCAR's most popular driver, I think 4 years in a row, possibly 5.
Oh damn.
And that's a very, very good record. In fact, it might be the record for most popular driver votes in a row. I think. I'm not too sure. I'm still very much getting into NASCAR. I'm not fully in it yet, but I'm getting there. So I'm still probably gonna get a few things wrong, but hopefully by the end of this year's season, I'll be a bit more knowledgeable. And the same goes for F1, really. I'm still not 100%, but I'm fairly close to getting a very good knowledge base under me. It's just NASCAR's going to take a little bit longer, because while NASCAR is only a couple of years older than Formula One, there is still a lot of history to cover. But yeah,
And there's
I'm
more
working on
history
it.
to be made as well.
Huh?
And there's more history to be made as well.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, that's the only real bit of motorsport news that I have this week, other than a couple of other Formula One teams have revealed their car launch dates. If you just give me a moment, I shall pull those up right now.
No
Because
problem at
so
all.
far, we've had the dates revealed for Aston Martin, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, with Red Bull, AlphaTauri, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, Haas, and Williams left to go. And these dates are as follows. Okay, give me a second to try and find them. Okay,
It's been
we
1
have,
second.
and I'm ready. Mercedes will be revealing their car on the 18th of February. Ferrari will be revealing theirs a day before, on the 17th of February. McLaren will be on the 11th of February. And as I think I mentioned last weekend, Aston Martin will be on the 10th. So those are the 4 car launch dates. Pardon me. The 4 car launch dates that we have so far. With, of course, as I just mentioned, 6 more to go. And
Always good.
yeah, and Alex Albon in his first official day at Williams. Bit of a bad omen, in my opinion. This doesn't really bode well.
Uh-oh.
His first day at the Williams factory, he may or may not have lost his car keys.
Oh, jeez.
So, I don't know about you, but that doesn't really bode too well, does it?
Not particularly, no.
No, I'm just thankful that F1 cars don't have keys to start them. Not anymore, anyway.
Yeah.
Like, if that was the case, oh god. Yeah. Poor Alex, his first day at a Formula One factory in like 2 years, and he loses his keys on the first day.
To be fair, it's just as luck.
Yeah, I will give you that. poor lad didn't have that much luck at Red Bull, although very few drivers can say that they have.
Fair point.
Cough, Red Bull's toxic. Cough. Like, I'm sorry, but I still maintain that Red Bull is the most toxic team on the grid. Like, and there is very little people can do to really change my mind on that. Like,
so what you're saying is
look
you're
at
not going to have a Red Bull then?
Oh, no. If I ever end up drinking energy drinks, which I find astronomically unlikely anyway, I will be steering as far away from Red Bull as you can physically get. Yeah, not the biggest fan. But yeah.
Well.
So that's the motorsport section done for this week, because unlike last week, my memory isn't just kicking in with everything that I kept forgetting. I've actually remembered everything this time.
Yay.
Yeah. But the Disney Plus section this week, Book of Boba Fett. My God. What an episode 4 was. It was, frankly, probably the best so far, in my opinion. So, in this episode, we had, I'm going to guess, the final flashback scene, because Boba's injuries have been healed in the Bacta tank, and we only get his flashbacks when he's in his Bacta tank asleep. So I think he's now done with that, and that'll be the last flashback that we get, because this week's flashback, which took up literally 2/3 of the episode, taking the first half an hour, caught us up to more or less the present day-ish.
Nice.
Or rather, it's caught us up to the last events, the most recent events from Boba's life that we haven't seen. So, this episode covers the start of the partnership between Fennec Shand and Boba Fett. And that, of course, kicks in when Fennec Shand is basically left for dead by the Mandalorian in the 5th episode of season 1. So we're into the Mandalorian's timeline now. So we see him sitting in the Dune Sea on Tatooine. Then he sees this flash go off in the sky, and then he walks over to where it was and sees Fennec, which we do see in that episode of The Mandalorian, because, well, initially it was just Fennec lying on the ground, more or less dead, with a mysterious figure standing over her, and all we saw was a boot, which everyone somehow immediately connected back to Boba Fett. Of course, we now know that was correct. And then we see Boba save her life by taking her to the mods. Now, something really cool here that they've done. The biker gang from a few episodes ago, well, they're called mods because they're actually scooters. And of course, mods is the name given to the scooter rider culture. And they've done a bit of a double meaning, because they've given the name to them because they ride scooters, and because they modify their bodies with cybernetics.
Oh.
So they've introduced the subculture of mods with actual cybernetic modifications to the riders' bodies as well, which I thought was really nice touch. But anyway, we see him take Fennec into a modification parlor where one of the modifiers fixed her up and saved her life. And of course, we see that machinery in The Mandalorian Season 2 when Fennec Shand comes back with Boba Fett. And then she wakes up eventually after being basically revived, panics a little bit. She's like, oh my God, what the hell have you done to me? And then Boba recognizes her instantly and says, you're Fennec Shand, master assassin of the mid-rim of the galaxy. And then she says, yeah? What's the price on my head? Am I worth more alive than dead? And he says, nah, I've not rescued you for money. And then she asks who he is. And he says, I'm Boba Fett. To which she replies, that's impossible. Boba's dead.
Whoa.
I was, yeah, because of course, no one knew that Boba Fett had survived.
Of course.
As far as everyone's concerned, when Han Solo knocked Boba into that Sarlacc pit, that was him done. But so we see that happening, and then he explains why he revived her, because basically he needs her help. Because at the very start of the episode, which I did forget to mention, Boba is doing some reconnaissance on Jabba's palace, because of course that is where his old starship was parked before he went onto the sail barge and got killed. And
Oh.
since he disappeared, the ship hasn't moved, so it's still in the hangar bay in the palace. And Boba wants to steal it back from Bib Fortuna, who now runs the palace. To which Fennec says, "Why not just ask for it back?" And then Boba says, "I'm afraid I might not like the answer because without my armor, I'm a lot less persuasive." Which
Seems about right.
could be a bit, yeah, it could be a bit of an insecurity thing because, well, like he saw how much that armor did for his dad. Because something that was kind of glossed over a little bit in The Mandalorian was that Boba Fett's armor is actually Jango Fett's. Boba's just repainted it. So it is his dad's armor just painted green and red, which I thought was a really nice touch. But so we see Fennec agree to help Boba, at which point they head back to the same position that Boba has been kind of scoping out the place. But then Fennec pulls out what I think is a mini probe droid to like scout out the place whilst being in there, because as the little probe droid was flying towards the hangar bay gates, the gates were starting to close. But as the droid was so small, it was able to sneak in milliseconds before the doors closed shut.
Nice.
Thank God for that, because within a few minutes after them two talking for a little bit longer about how Boba does not want to be a bounty hunter anymore, and Fennec saying, yeah, that's not really the sort of life you can walk away from, even though Boba knows that you can, the probe droid returns with a full blueprint, well, holographic blueprint of the hangar with Boba's ship inside. And then they come up with a plan off screen to get in there and get the ship back. And then they run to what's basically a drainage sewer. Then Fennec kind of uses this blowtorch to rip it open because it's like metal bars. Then they run up through the sewer, basically, to what would appear to be the palace's kitchen. And then we find two droids. One is a chef droid with like 6 cleavers on his arms, which I'll get back to in a moment because something very funny happens. And the droid that kind of gave R2-D2 and C-3PO a shakedown when Luke gave them to Jabba the Hutt back in Return of the Jedi. And during this scene, when they come back into the kitchen, we see that droid get killed. And thank God, because I never liked him.
Aww.
He was so stuck up. Like, supremely stuck up. So I was like, oh, thank God. Or at the very least, they knocked him out. If you can even do that to a droid.
Potentially.
I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, once Boba knocks out this droid, this chef droid with the 6 cleavers on his arms starts spinning his arms around all General Grievous style. And the amount of memes that have come out of that is unreal. And then Fennec uses her blowtorch to basically decapitate the droid. Which puts an end to that meme pretty quickly, but not quickly enough to get screenshots and make a meme template out of it, which I know people have already done.
Darn.
And then once they deal with that, well, again, forgot to mention this as well. When the two droids notice that the drain cover has been lifted off, one of the chef droid thinks it's a rat again, so he calls the rat catcher droid. And then after the chef droid's killed, the rat catcher droid does show up. Now, this droid, well, this is its first appearance in live action because it was a droid that appeared several times in the Clone Wars, but hasn't appeared in any live action Star Wars since that point. So this was its first appearance. I can't remember the classification of droid. I think it's a LEP droid, I think. It's L something P. I just don't remember what letter's in the middle. So that's great. And then a really, really funny chase scene between Boba and this droid ensues, because Fennec basically says, I'll watch the door while you deal with this one, because I don't want the alarm to get tripped and have some more dangerous people head in that direction. So Boba then chases this droid around the kitchen, which ends up really funny. Like, it's a lot funnier than I'm making it sound. No, like, seriously, it is hilarious. Then at the end, Boba does eventually catch him, pins him against the wall, and then says, do you know who I am? My name's Boba Fett. And then the droid switches himself off.
Aww.
And then Boba throws him in the bin.
Wow.
Yeah, great. It was a brilliant chase. It was hilarious. But then, once they deal with that, they actually head to the hangar. And there, in her green and red glory, there she is, Boba's ship. Now, there is a bit of a naming controversy with this one. Because up until last year, this ship was called the Slave One. And Disney, being as they are wanting to change that. And they have changed it in a very clever way, I'll admit. But it's a way that not all fans are happy with because they seem to have forgotten something about it. Now, of course, the Slave One does have its canonical reason for being called that, being that it was originally Jango Fett's ship, and he was a slave growing up, so that's why he gave it that name. However, that has caused some anger in the real world because, well, you can probably guess.
Yeah.
And they have decided to rename it the Fire Spray Gunship. Now, this isn't actually a rename, because the class of starship is actually called the Fire Spray Gunship.
Oh.
So they haven't renamed it, they're just using its official classification name.
If they wanted to rename it, that's still kind of lazy.
True, but at least it isn't, coming up with something completely new.
True. I mean, what they could have done was just, like, make one of the letters into a number, so SL4.
Yeah. Maybe.
V3.
Yeah. However, it's better than what they came up with originally for the rename. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Boba Fett's ship.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. They literally just called it at the start Boba Fett's ship.
It's like asking a 12-year-old.
Yeah, but I do like it because it is the original class name. So it is like the Millennium Falcon. It isn't called a Millennium Falcon class starship. It's the YT-1300. So they're not referring to it by its original name, by its individual name. They're instead referring to its model name.
Yeah.
Which I've liked that they haven't changed that, so I can understand the name change, and I can understand, and I'm very glad they've changed it to that, but I can also understand the fandom's minor annoyance with the name change because it's been that since 1980. But again, I absolutely understand why they've changed it, because yikes.
Yeah.
Like, that is a pretty big screw up by George Lucas there, but I'm just glad that they've changed it to something that is technically still official.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from that little side tangent there. So we see the fire spray gunship sitting in Bib Fortuna's palace's hangar, just sitting there, pretty much just collecting dust because it hasn't moved in about 5 years.
Fair.
And then, unfortunately, as soon as they get into the hangar bay, the alarm finally gets tripped, and half of the Gamorrean guards and, skiff guards in the palace end up swarming the hangar bay.
Oh.
Yeah, at which point Fennec says to Boba, "You get the ship started, I'll deal with this lot," because of course she's an assassin, so she knows how to deal with that sort of thing.
Yeah, that seems about right.
So Boba runs up the boarding ramp into the ship, gets in, because of course, to get into that ship, he has to kind of lie down because it's a very weird cockpit. It lies flat. It's kind of upside down when it's lying flat, and then when it turns vertically to fly it, the cockpit kind of moves around. It's very weird, but very cool at the same time. And when Boba first starts it up, he kinda has forgotten how to fly it.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, after not doing something for 5 years, you're gonna be a bit rusty.
Just a little.
Which Boba absolutely was, as soon as he lifted off the ground, he smacked the bottom of the ship into a wall and scraped it a bit.
Ooh.
So, yeah, he hasn't. He needs some practice back with the ship. But then, of course, eventually he manages to maneuver it around in such a way, but he notices, well, that he can get out, but he notices that the gate is still closed. But then Fennec has a bit of an idea. She kind of just shoots one of the weights holding the gate down. That kind of flings the gate open, and then they can kind of get in and fly away. And then
Always
as
good.
they're flying, yeah, definitely. And then as they're flying away, Boba asks Fennec, because Fennec said, "As soon as I've done this for you, I'm going my own way." However, once this is all over, Fennec basically says, "You know what, Boba? I think I'll stick around." And she does. And the first thing we see, which I can see on Boba's face, he definitely needed to do, he ended up massacring the group of speed bikers that killed his Tusken Raider tribe.
Oh.
He guns them down with his ship's lasers, except for the leader of the gang. He reserves a rocket for him and blows all of them up.
Wow.
And I could see on his face, he so needed to do that. Then after that comes, frankly, one of the scariest scenes of this episode. Because Boba has one more thing he needs to do before he gets really started on his journey. Go find his armor.
Oh.
Which, of course, he assumes, because he doesn't know that the Jawas robbed it off him at the start of episode 1 of the Book of Boba Fett, he assumes that it is still in the Sarlacc pit. At which point he hovers the starship over the Sarlacc pit. He then turns on the ship's flashlight, lowers it down, and then, in one of the biggest jump scares I've ever seen, the Sarlacc kind of jumps out and grabs the ship, and my God, I jumped out of my skin. It was terrifying. And then, after wrestling with that thing for about a minute or so, Fennec has to get out of her seat because she can't quite reach the button, but she does that and reaches the button for the legendary seismic charges. And then she presses it, and one conveniently drops into the Sarlacc pit, and basically she kills the Sarlacc completely. Completely deads it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, Boba is free to look in the Sarlacc pit without the risk of getting eaten. Again.
Always good. Always good.
Absolutely, because he does that, but then unfortunately doesn't find his armor.
Damn.
Because, of course, we know that it is now with Cobb Vanth from the first episode of The Mandalorian Season 2. But he, of course, doesn't know that yet. However, I don't think we're going to see him. Again, this is why I'm thinking this is the last flashback, because we've pretty much caught up now to where we see Boba Fett next. And that's where that part ends. And I would love to point out that that's only 2/3 of the episode.
Oh, wow.
Thankfully, though, this last third is a lot quicker to go through.
Yeah.
We see Boba Fett wake up from his back to sleep in the present day, at which point we do find out that Boba Fett's wounds have officially healed, and Fennec kind of interestingly remarks, what about the scars on the inside? I thought, whoa, just gonna completely roast him on that one, huh? Wow.
Might as well.
And then Boba mentions that he's still really worried about the Pike Syndicate, and she says, and Fennec replies with, don't worry, we have got our mods from the last episode roaming the streets of Mos Espa right now. And then Boba says, nope, I need to go and investigate myself. At which point he puts his armor on and heads down to the bar that we saw in the first and second episode. Don't think we saw it in the third. And then we see Black Chrysanthemum basically get really angry at some of the gamblers in the bar. He then lifts one of them up. And then the owner of the bar tries to calm him down and say, if you put this patron down now, I'll clear your bar tab. At which point he says, basically, screw you, and does something that we've never actually seen a Wookiee do, but have had alluded to since episode 4. And that is rip somebody's arm off.
Ooh.
Yep, he rips his arm off, puts a ton of money in one of the waitress's hands, and then leaves.
Damn.
And then Boba walks outside behind Black Chrysanthemum and says, looks like you need a job, at which point Chrysanthemum just growls at him. And I thought, okay, I think that's a yes. I'm gonna assume, because it looks that way. And then the last major scene of this episode is one that we actually saw in the trailer, and it's Boba Fett sitting around a table with the main crime families of Mos Espa. In fact, all of them, the crime families, I should say.
Wow.
He's then discussing with them how to deal with the Pikes, at which point they all say, basically, why should we go to war over the Pikes disputing your territory and not ours? And then Boba says, okay, if you won't help me, I'll do this myself. But I do have one request of you all. If the Pikes approach you about joining them, stay neutral. And quite surprisingly, they all agree to that.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be with the Pikes, but they're not going to be against them either. So They're just going to be on neutral ground, which is fair enough. And then we cut to the end of the episode. Now, this is where things get interesting. Because we see all the crime families leave back for their territories, and Fennec asks Boba a question. How much treasure do we have in reserve? And Boba replies, I have plenty of credits. Muscle is what I'm short on. And then Fennec replies to that, but credits can buy you muscle. And then we hear the theme of The Mandalorian.
Oh.
So, by the looks of it, next week, we're going to be getting an episode featuring Din Djarin, aka The Mandalorian himself.
Wow.
And I can't wait. Because, yes. So this will be the first time we've seen Mando in over a year now, since the end of The Mandalorian Season 2. So this is the first time we've seen him for like a year and 2 months, and I can't wait. But yeah, that's kind of the overview for this episode of The Mandalorian, episode 4. Now, for my predictions for next week, it's not much other than we're going to be getting a lot of scenes featuring The Mandalorian. And that's pretty much it.
So.
Oh, I hope. I really hope. Because they can't just do this now and leave into like the last episode.
Sure they can.
They could, but I hope not. There's no point hinting at something and then not doing it till 3 episodes later.
Sure they can.
Again, they could, but I have faith in Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau that they absolutely won't.
Let's hope that faith isn't put in the wrong place.
Oh, I hope. I really hope. But now with Chrysanthemum joining and Boba Fett's crew, I guess you could call them, he now has a pretty strong army behind him. 2 Gamorrean guards, a gang of speed scooter riders, and a Wookiee, plus another Mandalorian. So that seems like and a master assassin. So that's a pretty decent clan.
Oh.
But yeah, as for next week's episode, yeah, I'm just predicting that we're going to see the Mandalorian. He is going to come back. And I think this might play into a part of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, where now that he has helped Boba with this, Boba will help Din retake Mandalore, because Mandalore is still under Imperial control.
Ooh.
Kind of. And they need to take that back. So I think Boba is going to help Din Djarin and the rest of the Mandalorians take back the planet. So I think that's how this is going to go. Din helps Boba keep Tatooine, and Boba will help Din take back the home planet of the Mandalorians. I hope.
Let's hope.
But yeah, that'll do it for this overview and prediction section of this stream. One of the last, only 3 more to go. As I mentioned in my video earlier on. But yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about tonight, or leave it here?
Leave it here, then.
Okay, sounds good. Right, then, guys. Thank you all for joining this stream. If you're watching here on stereo, don't forget to follow me here at Astounding Cameron. Or if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It will be just below the title of this video, the sub button. Don't forget as well to follow Roxanne here on stereo at Roxo. Or if you're on YouTube as well, subscribe to a YouTube channel at me and Annette. Don't forget as well to follow me on my social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That'll be in my link tree in the description of the video if you're watching on YouTube. And don't forget as well to follow Roxanne on her blog. That will be below my link tree in the description of the video. And that'll be it, unless...
Airplanes are actually designed to withstand lightning strikes.
Wow. Huh. So much for that Hollywood stereotype. Yeah. And with that little fact for you guys, I shall say see you tomorrow with another video, and next week for another stream. Goodbye.
Bye.